We have teams from all over the country today, and the first team that we have is Battle Buddies. Battle Buddies is out of Lake Forest High School in Lake Forest, Illinois. They are a nonprofit organization that raises the spirits of pediatric cancer patients by pairing them with young adult volunteers who meet with them on a weekly basis. Ladies and gentlemen, Battle Buddies.
Step one, you say we need to talk. He walks, you say sit down, it's just talk. You smile.
Hi guys, we're Battle Buddies. My name is Tate.
I'm Jen.
I'm Katie.
I'm Ashley.
I'm Colin.
And I'm also Colin. Throughout my high school career, I've caddied for the past 4 years, and I've also created my own company, profiting almost $8,000, and I decided to donate half of all the proceeds to a local nonprofit.
So I've been a varsity athlete for the past 2 years of my high school career, and my experiences on and off the field have taught me how to work well with a team and be a leader.
I'm also a varsity athlete, and I manage the boys varsity soccer team. I'm also an executive member on the Croya board, and all these things have taught me great leadership skills and how I love to work with people.
I am also a member of the executive committee at Croya. I'm on the volleyball team, and I work at Lake Forest Health and Fitness, where I work with kids.
So I'm a varsity cheerleader, and I'm also a member of student council, and I'm happy to say that I have a voice to represent my student body.
I'm a two-sport varsity athlete, and I frequently volunteer at Glasso, which allows me to give back to the sport I love.
So we're standing in front of you to make your day brighter and your smile wider. We'll be doing that by sharing our overview, our investment highlights, and our financials. Now let's go over to Colin to address the problem.
So the problem is that pediatric cancer patients, or as we like to call them, troopers, are sad, lonely, in pain, have a lack of connection to the outside world, and a low self-esteem. But let's go on over to Katie, and she's going to share how we plan to brighten our troopers' days.
So we are a nonprofit organization that seeks to raise the spirits of pediatric cancer patients by pairing them with young adult volunteers that meet on a bi-weekly basis. Our goal is to help distract from the pain of treatment by allowing them to hang out and kick back with a buddy. A few weeks ago, Jen and I met with our first trooper, Ella. When Ella was 4 years old, she was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and leukemia. For the past 5 years of her life, she has been fighting. When we were together, we played games, we danced, we colored, and we completely distracted her from every problem she had for 2 whole hours. One moment that I will always cherish is when we first arrived. We walked up to the glass doors and saw 2 smiling faces waiting for us. They pulled us inside and showed us this magic show.
See it?
Yes.
Now I need a volunteer to tie the ends.
I got it. Just the ends?
Yeah, the ends, the 2 ends of the string that are hanging into a single knot.
Okay. Just like that?
Yep. And now this ring will go into the string.
She did it. So cool.
So currently we have a couple similar organizations to Battle Buddies. The first one is the Friends of Jacqueline Foundation. And this organization pairs young cancer patients with their favorite hometown sports teams like the Chicago Blackhawks. The second organization is the Sunshine Kids Foundation. This organization goes into hospitals and sets up support groups that consist of 10 to 20 young cancer patients. However, the shortcomings of these 2 organizations is that 1, they do not provide meaningful support, and 2, it's not individualized. Battle Buddies is far superior to both of these organizations because 1, we offer meaningful support that is also individualized. And when the trooper enters remission, the buddy and the trooper will still have an amazing relationship. Now let's move on to Colin to see what we've been doing for the past few months. So during our minimum viable product, we attempted to validate our service at the lowest level possible. To do this, we tried to validate our 3 early adopters, students 17 to 22, businesses related to healthcare, and pediatric cancer patients 3 to 15, all in Chicago. So to start off our MVP, we sent out surveys to various high schools. In the surveys were data points such as how many free hours per week the different students have during different seasons, if they're in need of community service hours, and an option to enter their email to potentially become one of the first Battle Buddies volunteers ever.
From the students who entered their email, we sent them a registration invitation containing 2 things: a message asking them to join the Battle Buddies family today, and right below that, a link that would send them directly to our application process. After that, we created donation packets to deliver to businesses related to healthcare all around Chicago. Then we sent out an email blast to almost 500 parents in the community explaining our service and asking if they would be willing to donate. Then we ran a raffle that Ashley will expand upon in greater detail shortly. And finally, we utilized our sphere of influence to identify and connect with our first trooper ever. So let's see how we did. To start, we were able to send our survey to over 25 different schools, and over 720 students completed our survey. From that, 323 students entered their email showing interest in volunteering with our service. Once we sent them our registration invitation, 8 potential buddies filled out an application using our website. From our donation packets, we received an incredible opportunity for nonprofits that are just starting out, and I'll touch on that in just a moment. From our email blast, we gathered almost $300 in donations, and we raised more than $325 from our raffle. And finally, we achieved our greatest milestone yet by connecting with our first trooper ever, Ella Cow. Her mom was so happy with how things went that we already have our next session that is going to be scheduled within this next month. Also, she recommended us to one of her friends, and within the week, we will be connecting with our second trooper ever. But by far, we are most excited to announce that we were the first nonprofit to be accepted into the Pfizer trade show in Chicago this October. At the event, we will be given a booth, and thousands of people will walk by and see a group of high schoolers trying to make a pediatric cancer patient's day. We believe that our age and service will bring in a ton of donations. But the best part is for every donation we receive at this event, it will be matched by Pfizer for up to $15,000. This is an incredible opportunity, and we just can't wait to begin. Let's go over to Jen, and she's going to share what we took away from establishing our service at a low level.
So throughout our MVP process, we were able to gain a lot of insight. First, from our surveys that the students took, we learned that over 50% of the students would be willing to hang out with a cancer patient. We also learned that 63% of the students have more than 10 hours of free time in the summer, whereas only 79% of the students have less than 10 hours of free time in the winter. We also learned that trying to conduct our business in a hospital was a lot harder than we had first anticipated because of our credibility, and hospitals were weary about the training commitments for the volunteers. But because of this, doing an in-home service right now, we learned is much more efficient and less of a burden to the volunteers. And lastly, we learned that not only do the troopers love our service, but so do the parents or guardians of the troopers. The minute Katie and I left Ella's house after our first meeting, within the next hour, Ella's mother contacted us, explaining how much fun Ella had that day and wanted to schedule our next meeting right then and there. Now let's actually go over to Katie to hear about an awesome event we held the past year.
So way back in December, when our group was still in our early stages of formation, we decided we wanted to take our first big step into the world of a nonprofit. So we partnered with Lurie's Children's Hospital in downtown Chicago, and we held a toy drive throughout our own school. In just 1 week, we gathered over 150 toys and were able to make hundreds of cancer patients' days. The community was so proud of our success that we were mentioned in an article in the Lake Forest Patch. Now let's go over to Ashley to see something we've done a little bit more recently.
All right, for our second event, we realized to attend the Pfizer Fair, we had to be an established 501c3 and LLC by midsummer. So in order to obtain this money, we decided we wanted to host a raffle. We went to 6 different stores in Lake Forest and collected gift cards as prizes. Within our first week, we made over $325 and were able to file $75 for our LLC and the rest of it for our 501c3. If we were able to make that much in just 1 week, let's go over to Tate and see how much we can make in corporations.
So take a look at our markets. Our total addressable market, also known as our TAM, is based on the number of corporations in the United States today. And that is a whopping 28 million corporations. And based on a one-time $1,000 donation from each of these corporations, we have the chance to tap into an incredible market of $28 billion. So to take a look... Now to take a look on a smaller scale, our serviceable addressable market, also known as our SAM, is based on the number of corporations in the Chicagoland area who directly relate to cancer research. And these organizations consist of the Cancer Research Foundation, AbbVie, Abbott, and also the American Cancer Society. Now let's move on to Colin to see how we're going to get our volunteers, patients, and donors.
So how are we going to be getting our first volunteers, donors, and patients? We plan on continuing to use Lake Forest High School as our main source of volunteers. As Lake Forest High School students are not only readily available for us, they are incredibly qualified. And as you know, we will be attending the Pfizer Fair this October. It's going to be an incredible opportunity for us to not only get funding there, but possibly meet people who we can connect with in the future for continuous funding. And lastly, moving on to our patients, we plan on continuing to find more and more patients, mainly through word of mouth, but also through our current troopers raving about us to their peers. So now that you know how we're going to be getting everyone, let's see how we'll be keeping everyone around. So here at Battle Buddies, it is incredibly important to us that our troopers and buddies are consistently meeting with each other on a regular basis, and we plan on rewarding them for that by sending out a bi-monthly newsletter detailing the successes of one of our favorite Battle Buddies pairings. The mock newsletter on the board behind me shows the successes that we've had with Katie and Ella. So now that you've heard plenty from me again, let's move on to Ashley.
So just kidding, we're moving on to Jen. But we believe that our business will be very successful with our market strategy. We'll first start by pairing with more nonprofit organizations, and moving forward, we plan on pairing with the Hat Bags Foundation, a foundation that donates knitted hats to cancer patients. Recently, we've been reaching out to doctor community about implementing Battle Buddies pamphlets into their offices to give out to prospective patients. And lastly, we plan on visiting 3 new schools each year to try to gain new buddies. This year, we'll be visiting Deerfield High School, Lake Forest Academy, and Loyola Academy. Now let's switch on back over to Colin to hear about how we'll generate revenue.
All right, so in year 1, we're planning on making $17,000, mainly through the Pfizer Fair, but we'll also be hosting 2 smaller events, also our charity auction and game night. And in year 2, we'll be repeating all the things that we've done in year 1, but we will be adding a couple more smaller fundraisers as well as a second corporate fundraiser similar to the Pfizer Fair. And in year 3, we're going to be ramping it up to $55,000. Again, repeating everything that we did in year 2 with the addition of our largest Battle Buddies event yet, the Battle Buddies Golf Outing, which will give us so much more opportunity than we could have with our smaller fundraisers to raise even more money. So now let's move on to Ashley.
Okay, so in order to make more children happy like Ella, we're asking for $15,000, and our $15,000 consists of $10,000 in startup costs, and then $5,000 from our liquidity cushion, which is just our startup costs cut in half. Now remember, we are a nonprofit organization, so our company will not be given equity. This would be a donation, not an investment. So now let's look at what our donation would be used for. So some of the uses of our funds would be website development, advertising, insurance, and then it would also be going towards our costs for our SG&A, also known as sales, general, and administrative costs, for our marketing, accounting, background checks, and then also our care packages, which the buddy would bring to the trooper, that consists of things such as arts, crafts, games, and even a Battle Buddies t-shirt. Now let's go over to Katie to see the amazing impacts if you support our cause and help make a child's day.
You have the ability to make a difference today. By simply visiting our website and clicking on the donations tab, you can put a smile on a child's face. This is just one of the several times that we also made Ella smile the first day that we met.
Place on 4. Okay, get ready? 3, 2, 1, 0. It's a type of dress.
It's an amphibian.
It's not a frog.
Snake.
No, it has legs. It has
It's
a tail.
it looks
You see
like
them in Florida all the time. You can chop Their tail.
Alligator.
You can chop their tail off and then you can still keep walking.
Lizard.
Yes.
You see them on the ground. They have 3 parts, and you're most likely to see them in your
They're
house.
really small. They always eat your food. They're really gross. They're
You'll see
black.
them at picnics. They can carry a lot.
There's a movie about them.
Ants.
Yep.
Yeah.
The very hungry.
Hippo.
It's an insect.
Oh.
Go quickly.
Flies.
No.
Okay. It has ink. It has a lot of tentacles.
Oh, octopus. Squid.
So one last thing before we go, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming out and supporting us tonight. And I'd also like to ask the panel of judges here to think back to your most cherished childhood memories and how much joy it brought you then, and maybe even now. I'd also like you to imagine that you never made those memories. That's the kind of situation that our patients are in. It's also the situation that I'd like you, or the state of mind I'd like you to be in when you open up one of our Battle Buddies care packages alongside Ella.
Oh, rose petals.
Pink's my favorite color.
These are a whole box of colored pencils, Mommy.
Ooh,
so I
those
can
are
color with
cool.
them.
They
I
probably
can use
have
my
cool
big
colors.
colors. It's so, I love these. Mama, look how cute the designs are.
Super cute.
There's so many cute little birds and animals.
My favorite's the elephants.
Little t-shirt, Mommy.
Cool. You could definitely wear that. It looks
Give
soft.
Solly.
That's my favorite game. Absolute favorite game.
All right. Guys, great job. I love the concept. My favorite were your videos at the end, and then the care package piece, I think, is a very interesting and tangible part of your business model. This is questions, right? Okay, question for you guys. You have a lot of moving pieces. You have 3 different markets that you're going after. You've got your patients or your troopers, you've got your funding sources, and then also your teens. So from a marketing perspective, I heard lots of ideas. Talk to me a little bit about how you could get bigger. So you said you were going to go after 3 schools a year, and if you want to really grow your reach, you mentioned a market of 28 billion, I believe was the number, so it's very, very big. How else could you think about marketing to those 3 groups? What are some other ideas that you have to go beyond what you shared here today?
Well, a few different ideas that we have moving forward to try and grow our business more so is to get more buddies established with our service. We believe that if we have a track record of maybe 5 pairings that are successful and both the volunteer, the buddy, and the trooper are happy, then we can take those and market them elsewhere to either corporations, to prospective school administrators, saying this is what we're doing right here. This is the positive impact it has on a kid with pediatric cancer, and also on a high schooler who's just getting community service hours. And then for touching in, potentially, we want to expand to hospitals by our 3rd year. And like Jen already stated, we attempted to be very ambitious and try to go for them right away. But there's a lot of red tape when dealing with hospitals, so we focused, maybe let's scale things down a little bit. Let's get our track record, and then let's market from our track record, keeping going.
I'll just be quick. First of all, I really love the conviction that you guys have around this and the mission. It's was so well presented. And I have a question that builds a little bit around Gail's point of view, which is you have this kind of classic 2-sided business model where you have buddies and troopers. What is the ratio going to be? Will you always have the same buddy going to the same trooper? Will there be a trooper might have visits from many buddies? And what did you learn in the MVP about how to scale those in proportionate, being proportionate to each other? Because you run a little bit of a risk of having a disproportionate amount of troopers to buddies, or vice versa.
Well, Katie and I have met with Ella countless times, I think 3 or 4 times, and we both noticed that consistency is key. Ella is so used to seeing our faces that maybe if we bring in someone new, it'll kind of like rattle her a bit. Like she won't know what to do. She's very used to us, so that's what we were kind of going for. Having maybe the same 2 volunteers for 1 patient, and yeah.
Echo what they both said. I think some of the best attributes of great entrepreneurs are the ability to inspire and to make people believe. I think you guys did an outstanding job of inspiring me. So great job. The question I have is, how do you measure success? Right. So this is a very emotional category that you're playing in, and you can raise as many charitable dollars as you possibly can. You can have a ton of troopers, a lot of buddies, but outside of the financial, what are sort of the emotional metrics that you would start measuring in terms of what success looks like for you all?
I just think like how we're gonna measure our success if the trooper's happy. It all depends on if they're happy or not.
Yeah, on top of that too, like I feel like you could just see it in that video how hard she was laughing. And like again, one of our main goals is just distracting her from her disease, which I think we did. So that's a big success point that we want to reach.
Yep, just really a comment. First and foremost, awesome idea, project, and conviction. One thought that I had as I looked at your future fundraise, the expenses, right? That you could think about in-kind donations, right? So design companies, developers that can contribute to your work and may do it for free. So that's something to think about.
Great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.